Good evening, viewers. I'm Anup Gulati, and I'm here to talk about a program which is entitled An Introduction to Social Compliance and Sustainability, which is going to be conducted soon online by the Apparel Sector Skill Council, or to give it its full name, the Apparel, Made-ups and Home Furnishings Sector Skill Council. Why the Apparel Sector Skill Council has asked us to do this is because apparel sector perhaps has the maximum number of, shall we say, organized employment. And it is important for us to know, especially what has transpired in the last after what has transpired in the last 3 months, as to which direction this entire game, shall we call it, of social compliance and labor standards is headed. We are very fortunate to have with us today Mr. Anil Sahai, who's a leading authority on social compliance and labor standards, and this is going to be a freewheeling chat with him. But first, before I introduce him, I would like you to take a look at a visual which is there, I'm sure, in your mind, of almost 5 million migrants trudging their way home to their dusty villages from metros like Chennai and Delhi and Mumbai, across in the heat, across the dust and the sweat, with no transport, no nothing. This happened, as the news channels so pointed out, this happened across the last 3 months, especially in April and May, in the sizzling heat. And it was quite a pathetic sight because there were so many of these migrants, their wives, their children, little toddlers, 4 years old, trudging along hot roads without shoes. Why did this happen? This happened because they didn't have any money. The amount of wages which they get, even if they are in the organized sector, was enough to last them for maybe a week or 2 weeks. After that, there was no option. All the factories were shut because of COVID-19. They had to get back to their native places. In this entire world of social compliance and sustainability, what is the underlying motive? The underlying motive is that, listen, industry has to always keep the fact uppermost in their minds that labor is something which they cannot do without it. Without labor, there can be no forward path. The industry cannot survive, the industry cannot sustain. And yet, industry permitted this to happen. Enough said. I'm going to now turn the focus on on Mr. Sahai, Anil Sahai, who has devised this program on social compliance and sustainability, and ask him some leading questions about this program and about the social compliance factor in India as it exists now. Anil, welcome. It's nice to have you here with us.
Thank you, Anu.
Before I go on to the question and answer session, I would just seek your indulgence to say something about Anil and what makes him the expert that he is. Anil is a global expert in the field of labor standards, ethical sourcing and sustainability. He is a pioneer in the social compliance movement in the Indian subcontinent with a proven 40-year track record. Mr. Sahai has worked in projects in some 20 countries in the Far East, South and Southeast Asia, Middle East, Africa and Turkey. He has been associated with MNCs and major brands in the FMCG, apparel, agro, footwear and several other sectors, as well as organizations such as the FLA, BSR, ILO, ITC, Fair Wage Network, Global Alliance, AEPC, NSDC, EPCH, and the 2 ministries of Textiles and Labor and Skill Development and Entrepreneurship. Anil, I thank you on 2 counts. Firstly, for having devised this, an introduction to social compliance and sustainability program, and secondly, for being present today, near its launch date. I have a couple of questions which I would like to put to you. The first one, there are a number of institutions offering programs on compliance and social audits. What's the need of this one? What's the need of another one?
See, I know most agencies until recently have been conducting certification or COC audits, COC as in codes of conduct, which quite often than not are more superficial than impactful. There have been several conferences and workshops on the subject for the past couple of decades. However, there has been little impact on the ground. The codes and guidelines seldom percolate to the level where they would benefit workers as intended. The recent flight and plight of migrant workers is evidence enough that the programs have failed to deliver. Sustainability, the buzzword these days, has failed to sustain. This was evident as sustainability never went beyond conferences and workshops. The term only became a fashion statement and soon started appearing on business cards which people love to flaunt. Unfortunately, it never reached the ground. We are not here to reinvent the wheel, but to emphasize the need to adopt an approach that would yield a positive impact where it matters. So it's not about doing different things, it's about doing things differently.
Yes, I see that. But tell me seriously, once this COVID scare, this pandemic is controlled, which hopefully shall be done soon, sooner hopefully than later, and industry gets into near normal mode of operation, then won't business as usual result? I mean, wouldn't the brands and everybody go back and say, all right, just keep on doing the same thing which you've been doing day in and day out, audit, pass, audit, passed with reservations, re-audit, etc., etc.
Well, there have been some brands contemplating about the need to move beyond audits. However, this appears so far to be more of an aspirational goal. But it's no longer about only brands anymore. Even suppliers would need to get their act together. To revive business and pursue growth, labor retention is imperative. Confidence building measures would need to be initiated for the return and retention of migrant labor. Pass-fail audits by themselves are not the solution.
Yes, I know. I mean, that is something which has been discussed several times. Let's hope now it translates into action and some concrete steps are taken. Yeah, and we've all seen what the plight of the migrant workers is. And I'm sure you'll agree that at this point of time, perhaps the migrant worker is the most vulnerable gentleman in this entire complexity of the manufacturing process. Yeah?
That is absolutely true. Migrant workers are mostly hired through labor contractors and often exploited. There are several instances where they are not paid all of their legitimate dues, and the lack of knowledge of the applicable laws only adds to their woes and makes them vulnerable. They are seldom represented in internal worker committees, hence lack the ability to raise their concerns. But then let us not forget one thing. These are skilled workers who are directly responsible for industrial growth. And if the industry hasn't learned its lesson even now, it is living in a fool's paradise, which should be a serious cause of concern.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And so in a manner of speaking, both the company factory and company managements, as well as their HR and administrative teams, have to now start looking at things differently and start doing different things in order to retain their workforce.
Right. You're absolutely right. You know, the senior leadership in companies and the HR teams would first of all need to change their thought process. That mental block that they've been living in, that needs to change. They need to really look at doing the right thing. So The first thing would be to initiate confidence building measures, perhaps undertake a needs assessment and prioritize redressal of key gaps and pressing needs of migrant labor that they observe. Implement applicable labor laws in letter as well as in spirit. Adopt and pursue visible and effective grievance handling mechanisms. Provide a safe and healthy work environment and ensure that migrant and casual workers are accorded equal treatment and benefits as those offered to regular and permanent workers. There should be no room for discrimination. So basically what I'm trying to say is they need to put in systems in place with full integrity. And the HR team, which is basically middle management, apart from responsibility and accountability, they need to be given authority to take decisions. See, the problem most often than not is marketing and production are looked upon as profit centers and HR is looked upon as a cost center, and therefore not provided the same importance that it should. We shouldn't forget that without the HR function, marketing and production will not be able to function. So I think there needs to be a sea change in the thought process, and we need to start respecting workers' rights and their needs. And as you mentioned earlier, without these migrant workers, you will cease to progress. I mean, there will be no growth. So treat them right and be fair to them.
Absolutely, because you are absolutely right. Don't forget, the migrant worker is one person who does not have any support system whatsoever. He is an alien town. He does not perhaps even know the language. Yeah, the unions, if there are any, he is somehow not a part of them. He is not part of anything. He is just a desolate, lonely being who comes in to work at 8 in the morning and works continuously for 12 hours or whatever happens, and then goes back to whichever place he is, which nobody knows where he goes back to. Yeah, so it is.
Yeah, so even the rooms or basically in the rooms in the villages that they rent, the landlords exploit them. Every time there's a wage increase, the rent increases. They are compelled to buy their basic daily needs items and essentials from the shop that the landlord runs and charges humongous prices for items that are much cheaper in the market. So all these things need to be put to bed, because when a worker comes to work, if he has a worried mind, if he's got too much stress on his mind, he will not be a productive worker. These things need to be addressed, and the HR teams need to understand this.
So, talking a bit about this program, Anil, who do you think will benefit the most from it? Will it be students? Will it be practicing managers? It's a short program. It's just over 2 days and 4 hours. So time is not going to be a constraint for anybody. I'm sure the Sector Skill Council will be running it over a weekend. Yeah, who all should enroll for it to get the new insight as to what is required?
Honestly speaking, social compliance and sustainability should be pursued in all fields and sectors. It is about the dignity of labor. Fair and unbiased treatment of people at their workplace is their privilege. So I would suggest that the introductory course, I would like to encourage participation of students pursuing their graduation, management students, or those pursuing specialization studies, even HR and IR executives, those unfamiliar with the subject, as well as entrepreneurs and business persons inclined towards ethical practices within their workplaces and supply chains. So those who are not familiar with the subject should consider participating in this program.
Yes, so it makes sense right from the student level to the practicing managers to enroll. For those who are in this field, it will show them the new dimension and the new paradigms which are happening. And those who are not in this field, well, they must get to know of it, because this is what labor, is all about. Yeah.
So
thank you.
At some point in time, and depending how things pan out, given the prevalent situation, we will also be launching an advanced and comprehensive version of the program. So I would strongly recommend everyone to do continue to check our site for updates.
All right. So there you have it, viewers. That was Mr. Anil Sahai talking about this program, which is going to come alive very soon. An introduction to social compliance and sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you, Anu.
Thank you.